This was about a man who had given everything, his body, his youth, his relationships, to this company, and every time someone else returned, someone else got the torch. Rollins was always the bridge, never the destination. And yet he kept walking. Because despite the jealousy, the injuries, the controversies, he never stopped showing up. Whether it was house shows in front of 2,000 fans or WrestleMania main events in front of 80,000, Seth Rollins showed up. And slowly that loyalty began to matter. In 2023, he was crowned the World Heavyweight Champion, a title some called the Consolation Prize. But to Rollins, it was gold earned the hard way, not handed to him, fought for, paid in blood. He wore it like a badge, not just of honor, but of pain. Then came the call from Triple H, WrestleMania 40, main event, against Roman Reigns and CM Punk, one match, one night, for everything. And when the dust settled, Rollins won. It wasn't just a victory in the ring, it was a statement, a career culmination, a vindication of every insult, every broken bone, every "he's not the guy" whisper he had ever heard. He had proven the world wrong. And yet the war didn't end. Because there's a truth Seth Rollins doesn't want to face, a fear buried under every promo, every dive, every sarcastic tweet. What if I still don't belong? What if I only won because Triple H believed in me, not because I earned it? Even now, he fights that voice, the one that says he's the A- student, the placeholder, the backup plan when the Golden Boys aren't ready. And maybe that's why he still wears the suits, still puts on the bravado, because under the visionary is a boy who never really felt seen. And maybe, just maybe, that's why he works harder than everyone else. In recent years, that mask of arrogance has begun to slip. Not entirely, but enough for us to see the man beneath it. The man who still misses holidays with family, who still wonders if he'll ever be loved by fans the way they love others, and who still questions his place in the business he sacrificed everything for. And as he stood in the ring one night, holding the gold, soaking in the chants, a rare, genuine smile on his face, you could almost hear him ask himself, was this finally enough? Or was the dream still just out of reach? Seth Rollins is not perfect. He never was. He's arrogant, flawed, obsessive, but he's also one of the hardest workers wrestling has ever seen. He didn't cheat the system. He broke it, rebuilt it in his image, and paid dearly for it every step of the way. He's the rebel who became the leader, the outcast who became the blueprint, the boy with a Hulk Hogan toothbrush who dared to believe he could become the face of WWE. And maybe he did. Or maybe he's still chasing someone who only exists in his own imagination. But now the question is yours to answer. Was Seth Rollins truly the face of the company, or just the mask it wore for a little while? Let us know in the comments. And with WrestleMania 31 approaching, something shocking happened. Despite everything, WWE didn't punish him. In fact, they rewarded him. In front of thousands at Levi's Stadium, as Roman Reigns and Brock Lesnar tore each other apart, Rollins ran down the ramp, cashed in the contract, and stole the world title. The heist of the century. It was glorious, historic. But success always comes at a price, and this time, the price was Brock Lesnar. Lesnar didn't like Rollins, didn't respect him. And when you're locked in the ring with a beast who thinks you're beneath him, that's not just dangerous, it's deadly. Lesnar manhandled him, disrespected his ideas, refused to choreograph. To Lesnar, wrestling was business. To Rollins, it was sacred. Behind the curtain, Rollins tried to make peace, even brought Lesnar his favorite beer. But respect never came, and it ate Seth alive. Then came the backlash from fans and veterans alike. Legends like Bret Hart called him reckless. Critics said his high-risk style was more ego than art. They pointed to a string of serious incidents. He broke John Cena's nose with a knee, ended Sting's career in a botched powerbomb, and tore Finn Balor's shoulder in a title match. And then, his own body gave out. One wrong landing during a sunset flip, and his knee exploded. ACL, MCL, meniscus, gone. Just like that, Seth Rollins was out. WrestleMania passed him by. He was forced to watch from the sidelines as Roman Reigns, his old Shield brother, took the spotlight. For the first time in his life, Seth Rollins wasn't on the card. He cried, he doubted, he feared. What if this was it? What if the kid with the Hulk Hogan toothbrush had burned too fast and too bright? What if all the arrogance had finally caught up to him? Then, Daniel Bryan retired. Another injury, another casualty of the business. Rollins watched Bryan's retirement speech with tears in his eyes. Not just for Bryan, but for himself. Was he next? But pain didn't break Seth. It refueled him. He clawed his way back, got cleared, got his match against Triple H at WrestleMania. But something was different. Slower, heavier. The architect was still building, but now he was building on scar tissue. Even his relationship with Vince McMahon began to fray. Vince banned his famous finisher, the curb stomp, calling it too violent for kids. Rollins fought to bring it back. It took 3 years. He won that battle, but the war for validation never ended. In public, he was still loud, still defiant, but inside, he was unraveling. His iconic white ring gear, banned by Vince. His dream of main eventing WrestleMania 35, given to Becky Lynch, the woman he loved, and now shared the ring with. It was bittersweet. She made history. He smiled, but a part of him whispered, "Why not me?" Then came new battles. A feud with Matt Riddle, born from real-life resentment over Becky. A war of words with Ric Flair over Becky's nickname, The Man. Twitter fights with Kenny Omega, Will Ospreay, and angry fans chanting AEW in arenas across America. Seth lashed out, called AEW the minor leagues, dismissed his critics as internet trolls. But when you throw stones, they come flying back. Then the unthinkable happened. A fan, duped by an online scammer posing as Rollins, jumped the barricade on live TV and attacked him. The line between story and reality vanished. Security dragged the attacker away, but the moment stayed with Rollins. That night, he looked in the mirror and realized this isn't just a performance anymore. People believe in the character. Some hate him, some love him, some want to hurt him. But even after all that chaos, the betrayal, the scandals, the injury, the attack, Seth Rollins never quit, because he couldn't. Wrestling wasn't a job, it was all he had. But deep down, the fear never left him. What happens when you give everything to a dream and it still doesn't give everything back? Seth Rollins had clawed, bled, and burned to stand tall in WWE. But despite championships, unforgettable matches, and a legacy etched in scars, something still haunted him. He was the star that could do it all, yet always lived in someone else's shadow. Roman Reigns, Brock Lesnar, even Cody Rhodes. Seth Rollins was the runner-up in a race he believed he'd already won. And the worst part, he knew it. Behind the painted smile, behind the outrageous suits and wild entrances, there was still that kid from Iowa. The one who wasn't sure if he was enough. The one who stood on WWE's biggest stages and still asked himself, am I really the guy? Then came the return of Cody Rhodes, the prodigal son of wrestling. The company gave him everything, pyro, promos, and the rocket push Rollins had been begging for. And Seth? He wasn't the welcome committee. He was the test, the stepping stone. He hated it. Backstage, their feud was more than just story. It was personal, heated, nearly physical. Rollins wasn't just playing the jealous rival, he was living it. He told Cody he was being used to elevate someone else. And for once, the audience could feel the real venom behind the promos. Because it wasn't about wrestling anymore. It was about respect. And respect had always been Rollins' battleground. When CM Punk returned to WWE, the wound reopened. Rollins, once mentored by Punk, now viewed him as a parasite. A man who walked away, torched bridges, then came back like nothing had happened. But for Seth, it wasn't business, it was betrayal. Punk represented everything he despised. Ego without loyalty, rebellion without purpose. In interviews, he called Punk a cancer, said he didn't want him anywhere near the locker room. And when Punk returned unannounced at Survivor Series, the cameras caught Seth exploding, yelling, pacing, storming backstage. But what he didn't say spoke louder than the shouting. This wasn't just about Punk. There's something about a man who walks through fire and doesn't flinch. Seth Rollins didn't just step into the world of wrestling. He stormed it like a force of nature, bold, brash, and utterly unapologetic. But behind that fire was a storm. A storm born from ambition, fatherless nights, and a burning need to prove himself. And the world would soon find out. When you burn bridges, there's no turning back. Colby Lopez was just 6, when he fell in love with wrestling. He wasn't like other kids. While others played tag, he was diving off trampolines in his backyard, dreaming of flying through arenas. With Legion of Doom shoulder pads and a Hulk Hogan toothbrush, he wasn't playing a character. He believed he was one. But even in those early days, there was a recklessness in him, a wild streak, one that worried his family and would one day worry the world of professional wrestling. At 14, he stepped into the ring for the first time, and by 19, he was wrestling AJ Styles in a dusty Iowa gym. People say legends are born in bright lights, but Seth Rollins was forged in sweat, frustration, and rejection. When TNA slammed the door in his face, he didn't shrink. He vowed to kick open the next one. And when WWE came calling, he answered like he'd been expecting it all his life. But confidence, when unchecked, can become dangerous. In WWE developmental, Rollins wasn't the humble rookie. He was the loudest guy in the room, correcting legends, mocking trainers, believing he was above the system. He wasn't just trying to make it. He believed he already had. "I was better than everyone," he once said, and that belief almost got him kicked out. Triple H saw the fire in him, the same dangerous fire he saw in a young Shawn Michaels. But fires need control. Seth refused to be shaped, molded, or managed. His arrogance clashed with Terry Taylor and WWE's legends. In his mind, their advice wasn't wisdom, it was noise. One day, Triple H gave him an ultimatum: change or go home. That moment would change everything. Because Rollins did change, or at least he pretended to. He promised to play by the rules, but even then, deep down, he knew his way was the only way. Triple H, against all odds, gave him the NXT title. Critics screamed he wasn't ready, that he'd implode. But the stage was set, and the era of Seth Rollins had officially begun. Then came the Shield, the most dominant trio WWE had seen in years. Roman Reigns, Dean Ambrose, and Seth Rollins. They weren't just characters, they were chaos in motion, a three-man wrecking ball. And backstage, they were just as untouchable. Rollins, however, still refused to follow the code. He didn't shake hands with legends. He didn't show respect, and resentment followed him like a shadow. But when you're winning, people forgive almost anything. Still, Rollins feared one thing: being left behind. He wasn't as well liked as Roman or Ambrose. He wasn't the fan favorite. And when whispers of the Shield's breakup began, Rollins did the unthinkable. He stabbed his brothers in the back. And just like that, the world met the architect. But betraying the Shield wasn't just a storyline. It mirrored something darker, something real. Seth Rollins was terrified of being irrelevant, and if burning every bridge meant staying in the spotlight, he'd light the match himself. And yet, as he climbed toward championship gold, one scandal would remind him that even the brightest flames cast the darkest shadows. You'd think the moment a man reaches the top, the fear would stop. But for Seth Rollins, winning the Money in the Bank contract wasn't the end of his climb. It was just the beginning of a much steeper fall. He had it all: the power, the spotlight, the backing of Triple H, but deep down, he still heard the echo of doubt. What if I'm not as good as I think I am? He tried to silence that voice the only way he knew how: by pushing harder. He trained obsessively, lived out of hotel rooms, ate adrenaline for breakfast. But behind the scenes, Rollins was unraveling. While engaged to Leela Schultz, he was caught cheating with fellow NXT wrestler Zara Schreiber. When Schultz found out, she did what any heartbroken, betrayed fiancé might do. She detonated his career. Private nude photos of both Zara and Rollins went public, posted from his own social media accounts. The scandal spread like wildfire. Sponsors panicked. WWE tiptoed. Zara was fired. Seth, he was humiliated, embarrassed, but not finished. Because pain never broke Seth Rollins, it fed him.